Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I'm excited for this week's guest to dig into all things real estate investing, and also weather in California and how great it is there, because we were talking about before we hopped on the podcast today. So please join me in welcoming Andy Dane Carter from Long Beach, California, realtor and investor extraordinaire. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing super well, Katie. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's super nice here, like a little bit of break in the rain, but it's really, really nice here in California today.
Awesome. I feel like that's normally how things are in Southern California. So jealous about that. But
Yeah,
for those that may not know you, who are you? How'd you get into real estate?
sure. So I've got a somewhat of a crazy backstory, like most people in the space of real estate. This was not like my first career. I had multiple before that, but absolutely loved it. So before, like a quick little backstory on me, I was raised super poor by a single mom. We struggled a lot. And I just came from a place of like struggle and grind and hardship. I was a really bad student. I got like C's, D's, and F's, severely dyslexic. I've got like so many different kinds of things and ADD, this and that. So I was pretty much told as a young kid that it was going to be very hard for me and difficult and all this stuff. But it's a superpower for business. You just have to train it. So I was told by my high school counselor, she's like, it's really good that you are a very good football and baseball player, Andy, and that you're very attractive because that's going to help you in life. And I literally was just like,
My God.
that is like, that's totally, it's not the case at all. But so it was just one of those things where, like, and I was just told, I got super bad grades, which was always well, you're not going to go to the good college and you're not going to get the good job and everything else. So I started working when I was about 12. I started working super, super young because we were poor and I was just trying to help. That turned into I was working like scooping ice cream at like Baskin Robbins when I was 16. And then when I was 17, I was supposed to go work as like a busboy, and they put me in as a bar back because they thought I was 21. So I was a college student. I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
So
You said junior, they thought like college. You're like,
yeah, high school, I was 17, right? And then I just started bartending and just started working, and then I got like huge in the space of like wine and like the restaurant business, and then it just all kind of took off from there. That imploded. I just wasn't happy in that space. Got super big and just unhealthy, and hit pause on my life. And I found real estate. I was like teaching yoga at the time and racing triathlons. So I wasn't doing much when I found real estate, but it completely changed my life for sure.
Well, and so I know that you are big into investing.
Yes.
And so did the investing come first, or did the real estate realtoring come first?
Yeah, so for sure it was actually flipped. So I got my license so I could go into like flip houses. This is like 2008, 9, the whole market's imploding and everybody's like, oh, the wine guy, is going to go sell real estate. And it was just one of those things where we started to flip 25 houses a year. Then it turned into about 160 a year. It was a small little team that I was on. And then we started to kind of use that capital to start to buy more larger buildings and multifamily. And I loved that model because flipping is a grind. I did it for a long, long time. And then I discovered this great thing called wholesaling. So I got really good at that.
Okay.
That's way more fun than flipping, by the way, especially if you're good at it. A lot less risk. And so I did that. And then I got into these like multifamily syndications, across the country. I kind of left, like the nice, warm, safe part of Southern California just because it's really hard to get cash flow here. There's amazing appreciation. So I took a leap out to Cleveland about 6.5 years ago and started buying stuff out there. And I was like, there's a whole nother world out here.
And much more affordable, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that the project you're looking at in Cleveland, Ohio versus, anywhere in California, same units and same amount of doors is going to be a lot pricier in California.
No, absolutely. What was crazy is the first deals that I bought, it was 6 like duplexes. and it was in a trust, and it was in a really cool part of Cleveland. And this dear friend of mine sent it to me, and he's like, "Oh, this is a great deal. It's $260,000." And I was like, "260,000, like, each?" And he's like, "No, for all six."
Like,
I was
done.
like, "What?" And they were all cash flowing. So I was like, "There's got to be more." And then, like, the first time that I was out there, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so different. And there was this one agent, she's very sweet, but she's like, "We don't go to the east side. That's the hood. It's scary." And I go, "Listen, I'm from like crazy parts of LA, and we flipped houses in the actual hood. Let me see what your guys' hoods look like." And there's deer and tree-lined streets. And I was like, "Settle down. This is not the hood."
Yeah. Perception's always an interesting thing for sure.
100%.
So obviously this podcast is like for real estate agents, right? And I think that I always joke around because like when we have new agents that come into the industry,
Yep.
I feel like investors just have some sort of like radar for brand new agents, right? And so one thing that I always talk to with people that are on the podcast that like do invest a lot or work with a lot of investors or things like that is like, how do you as an agent kind of sniff out the BS from investors to understand like who are the people that you should work with and who are the people that just want you to run numbers for them over and over again and they're never going to list a property with you or actually buy anything? Like, so how do you kind of sift through that?
That is a fantastic question. So it does take a little bit of time. So what I'll do is kind of share with you 2 points. Like, one was my experience and why, and then all the stuff that I actually see out there.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really important for me to add so much value to these investor clients that we had. So, I mean, I would literally bring them these huge deals and they're going to make a ton of money. And like my dear friends at the time and very close business partners were like, "How come you keep just giving these guys these massive deals?" I was like, "Because I want to go play golf with them. Because I want to get invited to their company's Christmas party. Because I'm creating a long relationship with them. And then at the right moment was my time to ask." Right?
Yeah.
It was like a drug dealer. Here's the free drug forever. Now that you're hooked, like, here's the price.
Yeah.
So I was super afraid to do it because I was still pretty green in the business. I was only in about a year and a half.
Okay.
And it was a great investor that I'd made a lot of money on 6 deals in a row. Well, on the 7th deal, I said, "Hey, here's what I would like to do. Here's the deal." They loved the deal because I already vetted the deal. It was great.
Yeah.
I go, "But I want 25% of the upside. Plus, I want to list it as soon as you guys are done with it." And this was on a flip.
Yeah.
They did not blink. Okay. And then I kept doing deals with them, and we still do deals with them. I still send them deals. But it changed the relationship of me being a gopher, flying all over town and driving these properties and vetting them and running the numbers like most investors do for agents. They run them ragged. Most of these guys and gals are type A's. The only way that a type A is going to respond to you is you kind of got to hit them in the mouth a little bit. Sometimes it's with like a curse word, or sometimes it's just something back at them to let them know this is a relationship and it's not a one-sided one at that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to waste your time. So it's good to find out exactly where they're at. So that was my experience, and it was very profitable for me. At the same time, I never brought them shitty deals. I only brought them good deals that were totally vetted by me. So I took all of the guesswork from them and saved them time, which creates a nice little like value play for us both.
Yeah.
But if you're like a newer agent and you're trying to build your investor list, which I highly suggest you do, you have to ask some questions. How many properties have you flipped is the number one, right?
Yeah.
"Oh, I flipped hundreds. Great. Send me just a quick little list." "Oh, I'm not going to do that." Well, then you're not serious. You want to be able to vet them just like they're going to vet you, because they'll waste your time.
Yeah.
Especially ones where like, oh, like, especially where you're at, and there's all these people that want to flip houses out there and do stuff, and they're from California and Florida, and you'll run around crazy. So you have to ask like their level of experience. And the number one question is, what's your buy box? If they don't know exactly what their buy box is, I don't even call them back. I don't care if you work for this big firm. I need to know exactly the product type that you do business in.
Yeah. My favorite answer is, "Well, if the numbers work, we'll buy it." I'm like, well, you still have a budget. You still have a place where you like to play. So
And that is a chicken shit answer. I know to the T what my buy box is.
Yeah.
Because again, this is time. And like I'll get 20, 30 deals sometimes a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you waste my time, like I have a huge blacklist. I literally won't even respond to you. I don't care if I'm gonna make $1 million. You are dead to me. So for me, it's like, and that saves your time and it builds your respect. If you have like 4 to 6 really good investors, that's kind of all you need. 20 can be a little confusing, but we have A, B, and C investors.
Yeah.
And we treat them accordingly.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, but that does always crack me up when, and I'll say that now to people is like, the how many properties do you have, and then hey, I know if the numbers work, you're gonna want to buy it, but what's the buy box, right? Like I'm taking away what your BS answer is going to be. Like let's just be real here.
Yeah,
You have the capital or you don't.
Absolutely, and it's like who's the decision maker? Because it's usually 3 deep, and these people are calling everybody, and I'll start asking some harder questions. They're like, and I'll just literally cut to the chase. Hey, who's the one who's signing the contract?
Yeah.
Who's in charge?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this. I go, great. I need to talk to her.
Yeah.
Because my time's important too.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that comes with the confidence, and obviously doing the deals and having, being burned a couple times and things like that you're like, okay, these are the things I now need to ask. These are, the things that we do. This is our process. So if we want to work together, this is how it's going to be.
100%.
So, transitioning a little bit from investors to kind of more, real estate stuff and things like that. I know now you're still obviously doing the investor stuff, but I'm seeing lots more properties. Are those all flips, or are those, you're going on listing appointments with the team and things like that as well?
Yeah. So there's probably like maybe a handful of flips in there, but for the most part, it's like traditional real estate. I'm going on listing appointments, and I totally changed my entire model that's being like sent to the public because it was investor for years.
Yeah.
And I was at a Tom Ferry summit, gosh, like 4 years ago now. And I was like, I'm going to build out like a little team, and I'm just going to see how this whole thing works.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing run. It's been a fun journey. It's been super challenging at times where I'm like, Tom warned me about this and all the drama. So, but at the same time, it's been so much fun. And at the same time, I'm trying to show agents too, like you're an investor first. You might work with buyers and sellers, but I need you to fix your mindset around like you see these smoking deals and maybe figure out a way to kind of partner with somebody in your office, or like maybe join a team that's focused on that stuff, right? Like yours, where it's like, maybe we start to buy 2, 3, and 4 unit properties together. Maybe we start to pool our commissions. We have an LLC. We have a holding company. I'm trying to get people to figure out, like, if you would have bought a 2, 3, or 4 unit property 5 years ago, God forbid, 10 years ago in Houston.
Yeah.
So it's that stuff where it's never too late, but it's really important to kind of get your head around, yes, you're a realtor. Yes, you work with buyers and sellers. Yes, you work with investors, but you're like the tip of the spear.
For sure. So, what would be your advice to someone if they were starting a team today, or like getting ready to start a team?
Man, have I made some massive mistakes. So I would say you want to have your systems and processes in place, and you want to have some kind of support, because I am the king of, I'm going 1,000 miles an hour and I'm stuck in 6th gear, and it's just way easier for me to do it. So get out of my way kind of thing.
Yeah.
When that is not how a team works. That's how like a solo agent works. That's how a solo investor works. Or you just have like a bunch of support staff. But for me, it's slow. And I mean, quality over quantity, I cannot say enough. It's like, you will spend so much time with somebody who does 3 and 4 deals a year that your head would spin. And the person that does 10 will only call you when it's important. And it's that time management part. But for me, I'm still going through it. I'm still so green. I literally had like a mastermind with like our team leaders at 5 yesterday, and we did a deep dive in my whole business. And I'm just like, well, there's holes everywhere,
Yeah.
So I would for sure say, like, lean into VAs, where I'm a huge fan now of VAs, and then just getting support. But marketing and all that same stuff that we hear about, like through like the Tom Ferry world, it all works. You just gotta do it.
For sure. So as far as leveraging VAs, are you using VAs locally in the States or overseas, or what's been your experience there?
We are using them overseas. So we interviewed with two companies. One came through like a really strong referral from the like Tom Ferry world, and it's worked out really well. They're
Yeah.
extremely cost effective. We got lucky because like the first one that we went with was super good,
Yeah.
and then we're just kind of stacking from there. But it's amazing what you can get done that frees you up for a very, in my humble opinion, a small spend. They're just not that expensive.
Well, and a lot of the companies, like if you go through a company, it's great because they're already kind of trained for real estate. So then it's just you training them on how you want things done, as
Yeah,
opposed to just finding someone, on your own or something like that, which, sometimes a little bit more cost effective, but like the training is definitely a steeper learning curve.
hundred
Um,
percent,
so yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's been great, and there's like a whole new system that we're doing now where like it's like a QR code that kind of comes in. It gets scanned like from a mailer. That
Okay.
then goes to the VA, and then the VA is running these CMAs for us. Like, and then it all just
Yeah.
comes to your follow up. It's like, why weren't we doing this before? This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of that kind of task-oriented work, once you create the process is really easy to push off to a
100%.
company. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people doing stuff like that. And I love like those automations and, all of the setups and things like that. Um, so what would you say as far as marketing goes? And you kind of that was a good segue into my next question. And so as far as marketing goes, like I know you do a lot of video, I know you do a lot of digital stuff. You've like just said you're sending out mailers with QR codes. Like are y'all doing all the old school and new school stuff, or what's something that you're excited about today?
So I love the old school. It just works. It's like it's going to continue to work. So I was so gosh, when I first started this journey for the investing side, I was like, no, it's all digital and digital this and everything
Yeah.
is digital and all my funnels and everything else. The highest results that we got as soon as we started to basically test it were like these letters that would go to landlords with
Yeah.
like and every person that like still likes to open mail, right, was like 55 to 85, and they were
Yeah.
actually opening them up and calling like, I'm getting these ridiculous results for a fraction of the spend. So we started with that, and then we started with these like super nice cards, and then it's completely steamrolled, and we're still probably 65% digital, but I mean, like we're still a huge chunk in print because it works. And then it's
Yeah.
just it's just super visible. It's expensive, but everything's expensive.
But if the ROI is there, then the spend is justified, I think, in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So
I love the QR code. And that
yeah.
was the greatest thing to come out of COVID was everybody knows how to use them. And
QR codes were dead
they
before
were
COVID.
I mean, it was so hot back in the day, and you'd see like a QR code that was on like a listing sign. I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
Now, I mean, we use them on everything. There's a
for
big
sure.
one. It's like sitting in our window at our office.
Yeah.
Like, scan here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, so I got into real estate full time in 2017, and one of my lenders told me that they thought I should put a QR code on my signs. And
Yeah.
that was back when like you couldn't scan the QR code through the camera app like you can now. You'd
Right.
have to like use your QR code scanner app.
Right. Right.
And so I downloaded it and I like tried it and I was thinking about it. And then I was like, this seems like it's just so difficult. There are so many steps. Like, Andy, do you have this on your phone? No, you don't. So you download this app to then scan. Like you could have already been on the website or called me or text me. So I didn't do it. Right. And then, now it's just literally like everywhere you turn, you see one at a restaurant or at a, storefront of an office, things like that. So
100%. It was so clunky before, right? It was
yeah.
just like it just didn't work. And now it's I we love them. So we use them a lot.
For sure. For sure. So other than obviously your book, what would be like a book or two that you would recommend to any realtor for them to read just for either business, processes, mindset, anything?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of books and podcasts. So I'm like severely dyslexic. So I read really slow and it's awful and I've almost no retention. So I listen to
Okay.
audiobooks. I live on Audible
Yeah.
and I love those things. Hands down, the first book every person should read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, it changed my life. I'll never forget when it did. I was literally trying to get my license to become an agent, and I had this old school like teacher, and he's like, "Have you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad?" I'm like, "I think I've heard of that somewhere."
Yeah.
And I just like threw it into my headphones and went on a super long bike ride and crushed the whole book. And I was like, it like changed my life that day.
Yeah.
So I just like that book just because it is like, so there's a couple different ways to do it. And then there's so many books on how to invest, but it's more so like you have to learn about you first. So like all those books, about like how to get to know yourself better, that all translates to being a really good agent or like a really good investor, because you have to know your like risk tolerance. There's a lot of people that would love to buy a duplex in Cleveland, Ohio, but they're not going to get any sleep anymore because they live in California and they're stressed out about it.
Yeah.
Like you have to really know yourself and your risk tolerance. So there's thousands. There's like, the books from Brene Brown, she's got a bunch of really great books. And there's just like, there's so much out there right now. It's almost like almost too much. And then there's the one where it was actually through the like Tom Ferry network, the one Answer Any Questions. He was on stage at Summit. I've been consuming all of his content. I'm drawing a blank right now. What is his name?
Summit last year?
Yeah. Where we were at.
Was it Phil Jones or Tom?
Phil Jones. Thank you. Yeah. He's great. Phil's awesome.
Phil just has so much better words than I do.
Yes.
I always get nervous, like if I'm going to have a conversation with him, whether that's written or in person or whatever at different Tom Ferry events. I'm like, let me think about what words I'm going to use before I go talk to him.
It's so funny, but that's trained, right? Like he's taken out all of the like, I'm not sure, and ums and likes and all the stuff that like, I mean, I do it naturally because I stutter. So it literally gives me like a pause so my brain can catch up. But it's a trained ability that so many speakers are really good at. But no, I completely agree with you. But he's got stuff too that's just, it makes sense for my brain. I'm like, that is a great point.
Well, and it's just the simple swaps, I think, that I really love about his book. So it's his book's exactly what to say, right? And then they have exactly what to say for real estate agents as well. And it's just those simple swaps of how you ask a question, right? So like instead of being like, do you have any questions? It's saying, what questions do you have for me, right? So it like validates the fact that there's questions. And so we've definitely been going through that book a lot with our team, just in scripting and how to say things to people and it's helped a lot, I think.
It's so powerful. And like Chris Voss's book too is unbelievable. He's such a beast. I love that dude. And it's the same thing, right? It's like setting the tone and pre-framing and then closing and then just word association. It's all and it's so crazy for me to like see somebody who's super trained in that. It's like they're just pulling levers. It's like, it's insane. It's really
for sure. So I also want to congratulate you. I know you recently opened your office. Well, maybe not necessarily recently now, but you have in the past 12 months opened an office, right?
Yes,
so congratulations there. Is that where you are today?
Yeah, I'm sitting here. There's a bunch of cars driving by, but our studio is basically right behind me here. We got a full kitchen. It's a blast. I love this space. It's like here in our farm. It's 7 minutes from my house, and we get like 40,000 cars a day that go by. So I just kind of go from my house to the office. We work. Super, super grateful and super blessed. Love it down here.
That's awesome. Easy commute is always nice, especially in your part of the world. I always marvel at how long it sometimes takes to get from point A to point B in California.
It can be painful. Yes.
All right. We'll end with two final questions. So one would be, what advice would you give to a brand new agent? Right? If someone just got into the business, they just hung their license at, ABC Realty, and now they're sitting at their desk and they're like, what do I do? Like, what advice would you give to them starting out in their career?
The number one is get on a team that shares your same values. I mean, I can't even stress that enough. You will waste so much time and so much money. And if you just get on the right team like yours, right, with the right leadership and just, but you have to jam with them. Don't just go there because like they're the top producers of the whole office or whatever, because that can bite you in the foot too. You know, it's like I never see them. Like they have a huge name and they do all this volume for a reason. You're not going to get any kind of mentorship. But and then you have to consume everything. Consume every single podcast from Tom Ferry. Consume every single podcast from you. There's so much free data out there that's going to just stir up your brain, but it's like its own language. So you got to learn how to speak it, and it takes time.
Yeah, there's so much free stuff out there, which is great to be able to learn more. How would you, what advice would you give on finding the right team? Because I feel like a lot of times, culture and expectations and things like that don't always align, right? And so like, as an agent looking for a team, like what are some things that you would do if that were you?
Yeah, you have to know yourself and you have to be honest with yourself and don't bullshit yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first place you got to start. If like you're super shy, maybe a little meek, and you go onto a team with a bunch of savages, you are going to get spit out the back. So you have to kind of walk. And it's not the end of the world to do a new team every 3 years for your first 3 years. Maybe the first one is like huge into training. They're huge into like, we're going to hold your hand. We're going to teach you how to do an open house. Maybe it's like an older team that has those foundational pillars in the business where you just learn how the game's played, right? Yeah. And then like the next year, you're like, no harm, no foul, but it's like, time for me to upgrade because you kind of hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then you go to that next team, might be like a little more techie or like a little more marketing, but I would sit down, I would talk to everybody because the truth is if you're good and you can bring value, they're probably going to bring you on. That's how the business is.
Yeah.
It's not like a really hard interview, right? It's like, if you're going to work hard, we got some leads for you. Let's figure this out.
Yeah,
but
for
you
sure.
have to want to go to work. You have to want to be on those Zoom calls. And you have to like, it's so hard to stay not motivated. But it's important for you to know you and to be around leaders like that will help you with your shell. If it's too tight, sometimes it's good to be around those type A's to completely shatter that glass box. But some people get their feelings hurt and then they shut down. So it all comes back to self-awareness.
Yeah. Which is difficult, figuring out, who you are and what you want. So step one, figuring that out. All right. Final question for you. Sometimes it's one that's a head scratcher. So I'll give you some time to think if you need it. If it were your last meal on earth, what would you be eating?
Yeah, I would be eating a giant ribeye somewhere in your neck of the woods. And I would probably eat so much I had to go to the hospital. That would be,
that's why it's your last meal.
That's it. It's going to split my gut open and I'm going to bleed out. I'm a huge fan of steak, huge fan of like sushi. But if I could just have like a last meal, slowly eat it one bite at a time.
You're my people. I love that.
For sure.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it and appreciate all the insight as far as investing and, just kind of getting into real estate. Very much appreciated. If someone doesn't already follow you online, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so it's super easy to follow me. It's just my full name, which is right there on the screen. And then I do a lot with Instagram. So we do a lot with Instagram and YouTube. We do a lot of stuff with YouTube, which is fun. And then the podcast we have. So we're actually launching season 4 of the podcast, which is going to be super fun for us to do. And that's it. And I love to respond to DMs. So like, if you guys have questions, shoot me a call. I absolutely love to help. And please go out there and buy 2, 3, and 4 unit properties and start your portfolio sooner than later, because you will thank me for sure if you start using some of those commissions to start buying income properties. Be a landlord.
For sure. And the multi-units are always a good look. So
100%. I agree.
Awesome. Very much appreciate it, Andy.
No worries, Katie. Thank you.